Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX, and I just finished spending the day with the 2023 Kawasaki KX450SR. And of course, that SR stands for Special Racer. This is Kawasaki's spin on having a special edition 450 that has a few extra goodies in there for that extra bit of money you're spending. And speaking of that extra bit, it's a decent chunk of cheddar. It is a little over $3,000 more than the standard model this year, coming in at $12,699. Is it worth that? We'll get into that. But first off, what are you getting for that extra money? Similar to last year, you're getting the look of the Monster Energy Cowie, the graphics, the handlebar pad, the Hinson clutch cover with Kawasaki Racing on it, Renthal sprocket, upgraded DID chain, a little bit different DID rim, things of that nature that make it pop. But then you get into the performance aspect where you're getting some extra power. You've got a cylinder head that has different porting spec than standard. You also have some ECU mapping that's been changed specifically for this bike because it also has a full Pro Circuit Tie 6 exhaust system. And unlike some of the other special edition 450s we've seen from other manufacturers, it is a full system. It is a tie head pipe, tie can, etc. So again, quite a bit there, a lot of performance boost. And then getting into the chassis and suspension side of things, we have a full set of X-Trig Rocks triple clamps, so the split triple clamps has a little bit different character and feel, a little more precise, but still good comfort. PHDS bar mounts that have multiple options of how to set them, get you a little bit more ergonomics out of your bike to go along with the standard KX450's adjustable foot peg brackets. And then bring that into the suspension, and we have a set of Showa suspension like the production bike that has a little bit of extra coatings on the fork tubes, fork caps, shock adjuster, and has a completely different setting that is much improved in my opinion. This is the one major change from last year's SR where it had a full set of KYB suspension, so we'll get into a little bit of that comparison. So what's it like on track? Starting with the power side of things. It is noticeable. There is another manufacturer, of course, that's done a cylinder head mod, and to me, this is a much bigger difference. This is the power I wish the standard KX450 was. I do love the standard KX450 character. It's very connected, responsive. It makes the bike feel light because it snaps to life. But again, you can modulate it. It's not like it doesn't come out from under you too easily. It's a very usable power. It's a 450 that I always say I feel like I can get close to the most out of it. It doesn't override me very often, so it's fun because of that. But it's also the 450 I probably the most often go to full throttle stop on because I can use that power. I want a little more. This setup is a little bit better initially, definitely a little bit more hit, a little bit stronger torque feel off the bottom, but then where it really shines is into the mid-range and the top. It pulls so much farther, cleaner, nice tone, and it makes the gears feel a lot longer, and it makes the bike easier to ride because you can use up seconds so much farther. You can even run third really far. I found myself shifting this bike less than the standard KX450, so big fan of that. The standard green coupler was my favorite. The black is a little bit smoother initially, a little bit broader and longer feeling. And then I didn't really like the white aggressive one. It snaps to life even harder, which is great if it's kind of sandier. But I feel like it revs through the low to mid-range a little too fast, and then it kind of signs off on top, which is pretty typical of a leaner setup. So not personally a fan of that. Getting into the suspension and chassis side of things, the stock KX450 has been unchanged on suspension settings since this bike was updated, I believe, 2018 or so. We've commented forever that the stock fork on the production KX450 is soft. It wallows, it doesn't have a lot of holdup, doesn't have a lot of speed sensitivity. The rear shock feels like it overrides it, so I'm always taking that bike and choppering it out, trying to get some weight off the front, trying to stiffen it without getting harsh. Never can really find a great setting stock. It doesn't complement the rest of that bike. The setup for the SR is much better balanced. The fork has more holdup. It's much more speed sensitive. It definitely holds up and puts more pressure into the rear, so the bike seems a lot more neutral. I still did go a little bit lower on sag and change the fork slightly, going a little bit open on rebound and a little bit softer, but really it was very close out of the box for what I was looking for at Glen Helen. Big downhills, square edge bumps, a lot of places where I needed holdup. I needed to be able to brake deep into certain sections and load the bike, and it really did well there. The only thing I feel like it's missing from the standard KX450, the standard bike, because it being soft on the front, has a little more maximum traction when it loads the front, but the stock bike nice, and it's hard to get aggressively into corners where I could carry so much more momentum on the SR setup. I really wouldn't trade any of that character again. The SR is just that much better. However, on the suspension, we are on Showa this year instead of KYB like last year. I did prefer the KYB fork a little bit for initial comfort. I feel like this Showa setup is just a tick harsh at times, but I like the Showa shock better, so definitely a little bit of a trade-off. And then again, triple clamps, bar mounts, all stuff's a really great feel. Takes a little bit of extra comfort into the bike that I quite enjoy. So is it worth the money? Yes and no. If you are the kind of guy that's looking at the Kawi, you like everything we say about it, and same thing, you want a little bit more power, you know you're gonna send off that head or get an ECU for it, you wanna get a pipe, you wanna get clamps, you wanna bling up the suspension, it would cost you as much of what's on this bike, if not a little more, especially if you're just, Joe Blow. You don't have connections, you don't have buddies at dealerships or at certain shops. You could accomplish this by getting off the showroom floor, not having to send out the parts or anything, so it's a good buy in that sense. The suspension is better. Most people are still gonna go get the suspension done on your bike, and if so, a little bit of the value gets taken away because it's really, the coatings are a little bit different, but the actual base components, you could get a set of standard KX450 forks set up just as well as these, and if you send them off to somebody, they could do the same setting in either. So a little bit of price loss or value loss there. If you're the kind of guy, again, that is totally fine with what the standard KX450 comes, this doesn't appeal to you, then okay, it's not a good buy. If you're the kind of guy that's got connections or has specific parts that you want to run instead of this, not a great buy. But if you like everything on this bike, for the price, if it's in your budget, again, I think it's the best of the special edition 450s for bang for buck. It brings in more than just bling. It brings in stuff that actually raises the quality and performance of the bike. And it's a 450 that I'd love to ride stock off the showroom floor all year. And it has great fun factor. And again, if it's got enough fun factor for the amount as it costs, thumbs up there. So again, I'm a big fan of the bike. I definitely would recommend it over the standard KX450 if it fits your budget and you like the sound of all this, but also you can do a lot of great things with the standard KX450. The bright side is, if you want a Kawi, you can go get either of these bikes. So if you like this content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. If you have any more questions about the bike, throw them in the comment section below. Love to try to answer them for you, and thanks for watching.